time for Ask the Expert. And our good friend Brenda Hollingsworth is here from Auger Hollingsworth. Going to talk about getting a lawyer in personal injury cases and the kind of the steps you go through in that case. We're accepting questions too, and I'm sure you have lots of them. 613-789-6559, extension 2803 is the phone number, that is. Ottawa.morning@ctv.ca is our email address. You can get on Facebook and ask us questions, but feel free. Remember that when it comes to this sort of thing, there are no stupid questions, really. Hey, Brenda, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, great to be back.
Yeah, there are no questions that are illegitimate, as it were, because this is a field that not a lot of everyday people know a lot about, right?
Well, that's right. And a lot of people think they know things and they don't, or they worry and they don't need to. There's
Right.
lots of questions out there.
Let's get some definitions done, first of all. What does it mean when you talk about personal injury? I know that's a wide umbrella, but there is a definition.
Yeah, in terms of what kind of lawyers or what are lawyers doing if they're personal injury lawyers, they're representing people who were injured, usually in car accidents or in slip and falls, where someone else was at fault for the accident.
Right, so mostly car collisions,
Yep.
I would say.
My practice is mostly car collisions, although there are lots of slip and fall accidents too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a responsibility on other drivers and owners of property
That's right.
that
Yep.
they should be liable for in many cases.
That's right. You know, if you're negligent, you could be held liable, and hopefully you have insurance.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
How do I know, not if I'm personally injured, because I know if I'm personally injured,
Right.
but how do I know if someone's liable? Like, how do I understand that so I can maybe recover some monies due to me?
Well, a lot of times in car accidents, in most car accidents, it's obvious, right? If you're hit from behind, you're not at fault.
Right.
If somebody does a left-hand turn in front of you, chances are you're not at fault.
Chances are.
So that, sometimes it's obvious. If the other driver was given a ticket and you weren't, that can be obvious.
Right.
When you call your insurance company and talk about who's going to pay for the damage to your car,
Right.
sometimes they'll tell you their perception of who's at fault. That doesn't always govern, but at least it's an indication.
Sometimes it's not so obvious.
That's right.
But there's still fault and
Yep.
maybe claims for personal injury,
Sure,
correct?
that's right. And one of the things that we offer is a free consultation. So if you've been injured in an accident, you can contact the lawyer.
What about, are there differences between how we operate in Canada under these, under personal injury claims and all that sort of thing versus the United States? Because we get a lot of American influence
Sure.
from this sort of thing, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the basic principles of negligence are the same across the border. You know, if you're at fault, you're liable. Really, what's different is sort of the quantum. How much money are we talking about?
And it's different here than in the States.
It is different than what you hear about.
I'm not going to get millions of dollars for my suffering.
Sometimes you are, but
Depending.
you got to be really suffering. You know, somebody who suffers a serious spinal cord injury will get millions of dollars
Right.
if there's that much insurance.
Right.
But your broken leg is not going to get you millions of dollars if
Right.
you can go back to work.
And my few days off of work are not going to get me multitudes of cash.
Yeah, no, that's
It's not
right.
the way it works here.
No, not at all. Pain and suffering, sort of the thing that we talk about, my life is less enjoyable than it was before the accident,
Right.
has a cap. You can only get, if the most seriously injured person can only get $340,000 for pain and
For
suffering.
pain and suffering.
That's it. So if you hear about somebody getting millions, it's for things like health care, loss of income, that kind of thing.
This is serious business, right? That's when
yeah.
there's debilitating injuries and so on, when the millions of dollars come into play in Canada.
Exactly.
What are most of the claims? Like if I run into somebody's car
Yes.
and do damage to their vehicle with my vehicle, my insurance or me out of pocket would
Yeah.
pay for that, correct?
Yeah, the damage to the vehicle
Yeah.
is usually settled without a lawyer.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
you don't really need to. As a matter of fact, some people think you need all kinds of police activity around that sort of thing, and you really don't need to. But when it comes to injuries, that's when it crosses a certain line, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if there is any personal injury, if you feel after an accident any kind of twinge or pain or anything, do yourself a favor and call the police. A lot of people think, oh, the car's not that badly damaged, I'm not supposed to call the police. Damage to the car is one consideration,
Yes.
but your injury is the other. And if you've got even a little bit of neck pain, do yourself a favor. It is much more difficult to advance a claim later on if the police didn't attend.
I often see, small collisions, so on, where, probably not any personal injury, and people even refuse to move their cars off to the side of the road or whatever. That's not necessary. But again, if there's any injury, don't do a thing.
Yeah.
Wait.
I mean, it's hard. You don't want to make assumptions about what kind of accidents cause injury. Sometimes the actual physical damage that you can see to the outside of the car isn't that significant. But if you open the trunk, you can see that it's squished.
Yeah.
Or if there's a trailer hitches absorb a lot of damage, but the force on the person can still be really quite serious. So don't judge an accident by what you can see.
Okay. We're going to take a break, but now's the time we can start asking some questions. I'll keep trying to think of ones, but you should too at home. 613-789-6559, extension 2803. Ottawa.morning@ctv.ca is our email address. You can Facebook us questions. We don't mind that at all. If you'd like to get in touch with Brenda and her team at Auger Hollingsworth, there's their email, phone number, website. AskBrenda.ca seems pretty simple to me. And there's her address. We'll be back with more of Ask the Expert. Auger Hollingsworth here on the program, talking about personal injury today. We'll be right back.